Hey folks, and welcome back to the channel. So there's a parameter change proposal up, and this one was, I knew this was coming. I'm a very strong advocate of this whole Goldilocks system and getting us to a point where we can eventually incorporate this whole tax to gas idea of having a slider that when the volume kicks up and prices kick up and everything starts getting more interesting, the tax goes up and we have a widely accepted tax bracket that's buried in, and it changes as it goes along. So there's going to be a lot of people who are going, what do you think about this HCC? Is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? And honest, it's down to however you're going to perceive it as an individual. Because for me, as someone who creates projects, we've got a lot of different contracts that we manage. We've got a lot of different systems. When the taxes go up, those systems, for obvious reasons, become more expensive to run. Is that a huge negative? No. It just means we're getting taxed more. We've got to do different things. And this goes across board, right? You've got to remember, in real life, when they raise your taxes in your home country, how do you feel about it? Yeah, exactly. So you've got to sit there and you've kind of got to understand this is something that plays from both sides, and it's always going to be an issue moving forward with the whole sort of Goldilocks system, right? Because 0.2%, 0.5%, 1.2%, it's always going to be argued left to right as to where it should be, where's the perfect spot. And honestly, there is no perfect spot with this. If the bull run is coming, right, the volume's going to go through the roof, trading's going to go through the roof, and it's really a time that we're going to want to capitalize on this as best as we can. So at some point, 1.5% might not seem like enough, because the whole idea is, right, the coin's supposed to gain more value. So therefore, it's all supposed to balance itself out in the end for what you was originally getting and what was originally being taxed. And you get where I'm going with this. So with this all being said, people are probably wondering, how are you going to vote, Jay? And honestly, I'm just going to abstain from it. I'm going to allow the community and those that have remained delegating with us to vote themselves. And you can go and you can veto our abstain. And I think this is quite important and quite crucial for the community at this point to start taking more knowledge as to what's being put in front of them and having a read into it and really making decisions for themselves moving forward, because this is a chain owned, sort of community owned cryptocurrency. And it's really important that as an individual, you're doing your job, right, so to speak. And it's kind of the same with validators, although we don't see that. We see a lot of rent seeking behavior. We can see that a lot of the top nodes are, again, nodes that are not even building on this chain. It's a very strange environment. So like I was saying, we've got to capitalize whenever and wherever we can. So from me, as it stands currently with the prices, the volume, what's going on, it seems like a good idea from where I'm sitting. But once again, if I was myself to say, should we make the change, I would just simply say no, because burning is a side effect of volume. And if you kick up the tax so high, you're going to sort of hinder volume. People might not want to trade on this chain. People might not find this chain that interesting when there are these sort of tax systems in place, and they're very obvious. And once again, it becomes a point of political talk, and you'll hear a lot of spaces about this. You'll hear a lot of people tweeting about it. Whereas if we just had a Goldilocks system, right, it would just be there, wouldn't it? No one would notice it. Everybody would have the agreed system where the slider goes, say, from 0.2% to 1.5% if it's the new sort of like 1.2% tax. Now, with that being said, right, this is why we need this Goldilocks system, and it's so important we get these better self-serving systems into place for the community to see that instead of having these constant changes all the time, having an accepted area from 0.2 to 1.5, and that just being accepted broadly by everybody, knowing that if the volume's high, the tax is going to go up. If the volume's low, the tax is going to go low. And I think this is good. It's something that actually wouldn't hinder price, right? Because when prices are going up, the taxes would go up. people are going to be trading no matter what. They're not going to have so much of a choice. If the price is coming back down, they're going to want to get out of their position. They're going to want to buy low and sell high again. So as that price starts to come back down, it starts to simmer again down in that low area, the volume comes down. The Goldilocks tax recognizes, hey, the volume's come down. I'll bring myself back down to 0.2% tax. And then once again, people were like, oh, you know, trading, and you kind of get where I'm going with this. So I'm not trying to add some huge complicated affair into burning, because burning is burning and it's always going to remain there. We've got a substantial supply to burn through, and it's simply part of the system at this point until the supply becomes locked in again. And that's going to be a little while from now. So all we can do is try and help this as best as we can. There are going to be people who are going to argue this and say, no, we should get rid of all of the burning. It simply doesn't work like that. You can't just chop your arms off and hope your body complies, right? It's just not that kind of situation that's going on. LUNC is built from many working components. A lot of people have always, even myself, have related to them as factions, but I'm starting to see everybody's just really a kind of a gear in the machine, and some gears are going backwards, some gears are going forwards, and some things are moving all together in harmony, and some things are sort of like grinding and wanting to get going. I think people lack communication skills, and when you lack these communication skills, you normally resort to your basic inner instinct of being a caveman, right? And going on the offensive, attacking everybody, and these sorts of things. So something I like to keep saying to people recently, and, you know, instead of just like going on Twitter and writing a load of rambling madness about all of these things, you could have just asked a developer in a little message. It really is that simple at this point, because what it seems to be is we're our own worst enemy at this point. I think it's a really interesting point, because the only people that are really preventing ourselves from going anywhere is normally just inside the chain at this point. There's a lot of us that are going in the same direction. You can see this with TCC. You can see what we've been doing together with the United Vision. And yeah, it's a really interesting time for our chain. So hopefully, if this does pass, right, it's just good news all round. And I think everybody should just accept it for what it is. If it fails, it fails. But if it passes, we should all do our best as members of this community to sort of go, hey, this is actually a good thing. Let's take the positives. Let's not look at the negatives. And let's just keep moving forward. Let's keep finding solutions and keep pushing forward. Because there's another huge conspiracy on this chain. I think it's quite funny that there's like no developers that want to work. And I can count at least 12 that are just wanting to work on this chain, but they're waiting. They don't have the means to even work safely, nor do we have the means to allow these people to sort of come in and work safely, because the only way of working is simply paying people 3 months in advance and then hoping that they do something. And that's what we fought to get rid of here. This whole idea around that, it's just a silly concept, and you should basically, the same way in real life, you build a house, you get paid once you built it. It's really that simple. That's the exchange. But like I was saying, right, we're going to have to do a video on this. We're going to have to do some spaces on this, and we're going to have to get you up to scratch, because we're quite behind here. And I think a lot of people, I keep seeing the thing, you know, oh, we want a video on this, we want a video on that, Jay. We need, you know, it's so complicated for me right now because of how much time I've put in to the LUNC chain. And I'm always bottom of the pile, right? It's just a pat on the back at this point. So like I was saying, the best we can do with this is just play it as we see it and support the system and try and move forward together, more unified and in better communication with each other. Stay safe, stay humble, stay aware, and I'll catch you in the next one.